Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. Later in the program, we're going to talk about perhaps electing sheriffs rather than having them appointed. But first, I have this great interview with the woman who's been breaking all the stories of sexual harassment at the state capitol, Benta Berkman from KUNC. She is just spectacular. Benta, I want to thank you for coming here.
I've never looked better.
You've never looked better. Benta couldn't pull it out in the time she had a story she had to chase. So who better to talk about what's going on in the Capitol than a man from Colorado politics? By the way, Colorado politics, you guys are on fire. You're doing a lot of good work.
Yeah, it's going really well. We're really pleased with where we are. We've just hired Mark Harden away from the Denver Business Journal to help edit this thing and run it. So we're growing by leaps and bounds. We're doing 500,000 page views a month now, and that's just phenomenal.
And that's just your mother.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. All right, here. This scandal that keeps growing of sexual harassment down at the state capitol, Benta has done just an incredible job blowing the lid off of it, and it's turning into something that is the story of the year, without a doubt. Before we get into those details, let's go back before that it all broke. How would you describe the situation down at the Capitol between boys and girls, and occasionally boys and boys and girls and girls? In other words, I'll put it it's a college campus down there. There is more infidelity, more drunken passes than any place I've seen since college.
That's the word I was going to use, is collegial. You know, people let their guards down. And, you know, I've always believed sexual harassment is about power. And, you know, power is the lifeblood of that place. I did a column in December about sexual harassment, and I said that, you know, power is to the State House what tomato sauce is to pizza. So, and we're in this era where women are coming forward, and let's be honest, there's political weaponization of certain charges. And that's not to say that the charges that have been brought aren't credible. That's to say that people raise an eyebrow anytime politics and accusations are put forward.
But the background of this, it is, how to put it, if Lebsock or Baumgardner are guilty of what they're charged of are accused of doing, let me tell you, year after year after year, there is more of that kind of behavior than we could ever imagine. And it's not just from men, it's all over. It is, you've got people who are coming from out of state, not out of state, but out of the Denver metro area. They're away from their families, they're out drinking every night. You know, there's a reason they're doing this for 30 grand a year, and because it's college again. And so now all of a sudden that atmosphere is changing.
Absolutely it is. You know, and I've seen it this session. And you know, I talk to a lot of women, liberal and conservative, who are concerned about what happens going forward. You know, if you're a woman lobbyist, you're not going to get a private meeting with a legislator, especially one that's going to vote against your bill, because he might get accused of something. So there are going to be people in the room. People aren't going to go out and have drinks together anymore. You know. And
by the way, in the world of politics, that's where deals are cut.
Absolutely,
right,
it is.
Every night after the gavel goes down, guys go out, women go out, lobbyists go out, special interests go out, they drink, they have dinner, they come up with deals, they tell dirty jokes, they laugh, and they blow off steam. That whole thing is going to get shut down.
Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Yeah,
I think there's a backlash coming. You know,
how do you mean?
Well, I was having a conversation yesterday with a woman at the legislature, probably as liberal a person as I know, and they just don't know what's on the other side of this. You know, women have worked so hard to get past the old boys club and to get past exclusion, and now, you know, men don't want to give them a friendly hug anymore. You know, handshakes are at a distance. You know, we've got to see what this moment means in the terms of the way that building operates. On the other hand, it's time for men to grow up and stop being boys. So, you know, learn how to act around women. So this is a wake-up call on our side. We just don't know what's going to happen after it yet.
Let's check the scoreboard, shall we? I see about 5 accusations going on right now. Let's start off with on the House side. There was one against Rosenthal. That one seemed to have fizzled out.
Right, because it happened before he was in the legislature.
Yeah, well, what happened to Al Franken happened before he was in the legislature too, that popped him out. The Lebsack one, and you watched Lebsack when he was here a couple weeks ago, talking about and denying every charge, and also hinting pretty strongly that he might bring a defamation case against Faith Winter. From what I can tell, there's still no report there. It still seems like the due process is still processing. In the meantime, Lebsack has been stuck in a corner. He can't play with the Democrats. The Republicans won't touch him. And there he is. But we haven't seen a report. He says he's never even been interviewed by the people investigating it. What happens next there?
Well, the session ends on May 10th, and then or May 11th. No, May 10th, and then he'll run for office in November. You know, there's a lot of people that would like for him to resign and just go away, and he's not going to do that. The question is, can they muster the political will to try to force him out? You know, Kevin Grantham, the Senate president, is taking a lot of heat right now over the handling of the Randy Baumgardner situation. And nobody is happier about that than House Speaker Crisanta Duran, because she was starting to take heat about what she knew, when she knew it. You know, she allowed Lebsack to be a committee chairman after she knew about the accusations that were brought by Faith Winter, Representative Faith Winter, in 2016. So a lot of politics have to play out, and I don't think we're in new ground. I don't think people know how to handle this.
They're not going to be able to force out Lebsack because for the rest of the legislature to force out a duly elected official on something that hasn't been proven, no, it's not going to happen. When you use the word weaponizing this, I get a feeling that's what's going on here. Let's switch over to Baumgardner now that we have resolution. Let me see if I got this. The report came out that what was accused was more likely than not true. But I also heard that the Mountain States legal counsel that's been investigating this haven't even talked to the accused, including Baumgardner. So is it solved now that Baumgardner has pulled away and said, I'm not going to be the chairman of this committee? Is it gone? Is he free and clear?
No, not politically. It sure isn't gone yet. You know, the Democrats think that he got off way too easy, that he got to choose his punishment to step down as chairman, albeit of a very powerful committee. Baumgardner is well respected among Republicans, and he carries a lot of weight, and he's not going anywhere. He was just reelected in 2016. So
is he respected by Republicans? A couple years ago, he was in leadership there, and in the last go-around, he got voted out of leadership before all this broke. Well,
you know, maybe not all Republicans, but definitely a large group of them. I think that before this all happened, he was very widely respected among Republicans. So, you know, I don't think he was going to be House Speaker.
Let me see if I understand the process, though. So Grantham gets the report, looks at it. There's now another accusation that comes forward. Baumgardner steps down from the committee. He's still a senator. And from the procedural side, isn't it now done and they move on to Crowder and to others?
Right. Well, procedurally, yes. Politically, no. I think that we'll continue to hear about from Democrats. We'll hear about Randy Baumgardner for several months because they don't want to just take down Randy Baumgardner. They want to take down Republicans in this rise of the Me Too movement, female voters' anger toward Donald Trump. You know, every Republican is going to have a hard time this year, and they're going to have an even harder time if they have a connection to the Me Too, you know, offending the Me Too movement.
That sword can cut both ways because it's not just Republicans. You've got Rosenthal, you've got Lebsack, and since he's not stepping down, it can easily step on them. And at some point, you know it, there will be an accusation against a female legislator because you've heard the stories too.
But the Democrats are the ones driving this narrative, not Republicans. Democrats are the ones who see an advantage here going toward November. So they're going to keep talking about this all the way till Election Day. And then we'll see after Election Day how much life we have in this issue if these accusations come forward again next year. Or if this is just a moment in time that moves on. A lot of people hope it's not. And if this is behavior that needs to stop, then it needs to stop regardless of politics.
Bring me up to speed on what's going on with, I think there's the last two, which was Senator Tate and Senator Crowder. They also have accusations. It's also being investigated. what does that mean? It's being investigated, and what is the procedure? I don't really understand this.
Well, they turn it over to these investigators, these third-party investigators, who don't determine whether it's true or not. They determine whether it's more likely true or more likely false. Then it goes back to leadership, and then they decide what to do, what to ultimately do. And members, as they've done with Lebsack, can make a move to have him expelled from the chamber. But it takes a lot of political muscle to do that, and there'll be a lot of damage done within the caucus if they try to do that, even for Lebsack. Now with Tate is one of those. He's accused of looking at somebody in a leering way in an elevator. He doesn't even remember it.
Well, wait, time out. His crime is looking at somebody in a leering way.
Right, right.
One, even if he did, and two, how do you prove it?
Yeah, there you go. Well, Crowder, moving on to Crowder, he made a joke last fall, a joke that he says he's been making a while, that when somebody offers him a drink, because he doesn't drink, he makes this joke that it'll affect my performance. And Representative Susan Lantine took that to mean his sexual performance, and maybe that was what he meant. But,
by the way, he's been telling that joke all the time. He's a teetotaler, so you're in a world where there's a lot of drinking. That's how he rebuffs a drink. Right.
But then she says that in 2015, he gave a speech on the House floor about veterans and concluded it by saying, hug a veteran. So Susan Lantine, a representative from Denver, went up and gave him a hug, and she says that he pinched her on the bottom when that happened.
At the well of?
Or on the floor of the House.
On the floor of the House.
And he says, I've gone back and looked at the tapes of that day, and I didn't interact with her that day. And, and he says that he spoke to this investigator and told her and focused on the tape, saying, go watch the tape. Show me where that happened on the tape. And because he didn't talk about the joke enough, that the joke more likely happened than
You know how cops now have to wear body cameras so we can see what really happened? Now legislators are going to have to wear them, and so will lobbyists.
I hope journalists don't, because then people will see how badly I flirt.
All right, so with these final investigations, it also puts the Senate Minority Leader, Guzman, in a tough position because she's the one who has to, who's stuck in this tough spot of beating up everybody or saying, no, let them go. So is she part of the process? Does the Senate President bring in Guzman into these decisions?
He could, but I don't think he has to. She made the move yesterday to say Baumgartner's self-punishment isn't good enough, that they want him to have to step down from the Senate. And I don't think that's happening. Randy Baumgartner is a fighter, and I think he's going to fight this.
Incredible. Who's next?
I can't say on the record. I'll tell you when we go off the air.
Really? Well, then.
Jon Caldara.
Yeah, that'll be news. Joey, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Stay tuned.